War. Terrible war. The impossible might of the Persian Empire, the largest the world had yet seen, has been turned away. In its wake, two victors, Athens and Sparta, circle each other. From the ashes of the Acropolis, Athens will found an alliance that would become an empire. Ruling 100 cities and more, it would bring Greece to the pinnacle of achievement and to the depths of despair. Paving the way for Alexander the Great, it is the world of Socrates and Plato, responsible for some of the ancient world's most iconic monuments and some of the most grueling wars. It is the Delian League, and its tale is one of democracy, corruption, and tyranny. This is its story. Hello and welcome to the Historical Humans podcast. My name is Justin Woods, and today I am joined by my fellow co-hosts Colum, Coleman, and Aaron Gilpin. And today we are going back to the ancient world of Greece. We are studying the Delian League, which arose from the ashes of war.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Today is a fun one. This is the Delian League. This is Greece as it exists in the popular imagination.
I thought this
And
was Sparta.
no, Sparta for all that it has captured with the Battle of Thermopylae is not the Greece everyone thinks of with the massive white statues and the elaborate ornate colonnades and the philosophers and the playwrights. No, that is Delian League Athens of all things. That is the classic Greece, and that is what we are going to be looking at here. And surprisingly, in the history of ancient Greece, which is about a 1,000-year long experience, this only lasts for 74 years. The Delian League is established in 478 following the repulsion of the Persian forces at the battles of Thermopylae and Salamis. And it is dissolved in the year 404 because, the Athenians make some rather stupid decisions.
That always seems to be the case with these great empires is they're built up out of heroics and doing the impossible, and then some asshole just comes along and ruins everything, whether via corruption, whether it be tyranny. It just really seems to be somewhat cyclical, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. In this case, I believe the fatal flaw is arrogance. You
What do you
see,
mean? We are the greatest there's ever been. We are the
yeah,
greatest there ever will be. There's never been one like us.
yeah. And it is that kind of that thinking that's going to undo the Athenians here. But first, to start the league, Greece is kind of at a crossroads. They've repelled Persia, an impossible feat. And
A
there's
wild
two
feat.
kind of all-stars from the Greek team that wins and does this. Sparta and Athens. And everyone's kind of got to choose who to go along with.
Can't be
Sparta,
best friends with either.
yep,
What is this fucking Mean Girls?
yep, you
I,
you have to choose one.
I would partner with Athens. I think I would get along with the nerds and the white coats versus
I
the
mean,
brawn.
like the Spartans were not great. They were very, you know, authoritative and said
Oh,
anyone who wasn't a Spartan should be a slave.
yeah. Yeah, no,
Like
Spartans had a lot of really negative traits going for them, but they are the senior partner of this. They have held a leadership position in Greece for decades at this point. The Spartans, in particular, are the leaders of what is known as the Doric Greeks, and as such, are the head of the Peloponnesian League. These are a group of Greeks that ethnically live in southern Greece on the Peloponnesian peninsula, and their emphasis at this time, their culture, is one that really toxically focuses on hyper masculinity and traditionalism and a minimalist perspective on everything that would put the Netherlands to shame.
I mean,
Yeah,
didn't
I it's like a it's you cannot tell me anyone there was straight.
Did they like? Didn't they put babies that they didn't think were viable on like the side of a cliff and left them there?
Oh, they didn't put him on the
Oh,
side
they
of the
practice
cliff.
infanticide, yes.
Yeah, no, they didn't put you on the side of the cliff.
They just chucked you.
If you were, they chucked you off. If you were not a perfectly, if you were not born a what was deemed a strong, healthy specimen, you were chucked off a cliff. That was Sparta, and
Damn.
to Sparta, that was
It was
morale.
also pretty common in other parts of Greece, but
Yeah,
Sparta's most notable with Mount Tayunas.
I mean,
yeah,
infanticide, unfortunately, is a pretty common trait
yeah.
amongst a lot of
Sparta.
civilizations.
Yeah, listen, Sparta had a lot of things going on. In order to become a man in Spartan society, you had to go out and physically murder a slave in the dead of night and not get caught.
My favorite thing about Sparta is essentially they do shit like this. Like they would take a child at 7 years old, like they would be fighting, right? All this time, but then can just die like anyone else with an arrow to the face.
I
It's
mean,
like you get it. Well, they use javelins. They prefer javelins, but still,
didn't they like train when training without shoes to harden the soles of the feet?
Yes, they did.
there's a lot of
If you
Spartan
can think of
propaganda out there.
the the Spartans had one thing going for them culturally, and is that they were full of witty one-liners, um, including including both their practice of relatively equal what rights for women in their society and an absolute lack of walls. To which they are reported to have said that Sparta's people are its walls, and a Spartan woman is the only woman that can speak to a man because a Spartan woman is the only woman that gives birth to a man.
Oh, I mean, okay,
Fun
kind of
fact,
circular way to have a mildly
yeah,
progressive viewpoint on women, but
but fun fact, that's hinting that they really did not view anyone who wasn't ethnically Spartan as human.
oh yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of like uber nationalism with that.
Yeah,
It
and
is really weird.
this has actually helped them build an empire, this hyper military, because at this time in 478, at the head of the Peloponnesian League, they technically control or have influence over the entirety of the Peloponnesian Peninsula, the Isthmus of Corinth, and they've even got inroads into the Boeotia region, which is where Thebes is, which was traditionally a Greek powerhouse, but has gone into decline.
See, the thing about Sparta is it's 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 just
We
so
don't need to talk about Sparta anymore.
yeah. I guess
We're
what
at
the
the
way
end
I
of
guess
it.
what I'm trying to say is like Sparta ruled through fear, whereas Athens ruled through consent. It's kind of like, but it's not. It's
Not
the consent of men.
It's just
Great.
interesting too to me that a lot of their territories are along the water, and I feel like that's going to become a problem later
well,
Yeah,
the issue is that most of Greece is along the water.
and part of the
on.
reason why Sparta want Athens building its walls was because it made the long wall so
Yeah,
so you couldn't properly besiege
yeah,
Athens.
yeah. Athens does that's going to be for later, but Athens does build an entire wall across miles of countryside. There's a little great wall just so the Spartans can't besiege their city.
It is the most Age of Empires 2 bullshit you've ever seen in real life.
Yeah, but yeah, back to finishing off Spartans. So, as the head of the Doric Greeks in the Peloponnesian League, their claim to fame is winning the Battle of Thermopylae, where the 300 Spartans hold off 1,000,000 Persians for 3 days and die heroically under Leonidas. And
But then with like the 1300 Boeotians too, and
the Boeotians do get to leave. The Boeotians are dismissed by the Spartans.
yeah, later on.
Yeah.
I think it's
And
like by day 3, they're like, yeah, just go home.
yeah, and the Spartans take a look at that, and their foreign policy, which is going to be what gets a lot of people in their camp here, is Greece can withstand Persia. The Persian War that just happened is the second invasion that the Persians have attempted. The Persians have never gotten a solid foothold in Greece. So why should we bother continuing to fight them? Everybody go home. And so everyone who wants peace is suddenly in the Spartan camp. Athens, on the other hand, has been the direct target of both these invasions. And they're kind of taking it personally.
Oh my god. So Sparta's like, all right, everyone, war's done, head home. And then Athens
It's
is like,
for
no,
honor.
I need
Yeah.
revenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
bud, your home didn't get burned. We're not ending this now.
Yeah, no. The Athenians had to flee Athens in ships to avoid being absolutely massacred. Persia does take Athens during the invasion, and that was kind of the main goal of the Persian Empire, was punish Athens, because Athens is the de facto leader at this time of the Ionian Greeks when they form and become head of the Delian League. Now, the Ionian Greeks live in the Attic region of Greece. They live in the Aegean Sea on all the islands. And they also live in Western Turkey, which is a part of the Persian Empire. Which means that Athens has repeatedly assisted breakaway Greek states from Persia. And the Persians have responded by trying to kill all Greeks.
Yeah, it's, again, not saying the Persians are great either.
Yeah.
That definitely seems to be a common trend in warfare of eliminate all thy enemy.
Yeah, but like, you understand Persia's motivation for fighting Greece. It's not just expansion for expansion's sake. It's trying to stop this one agitator from encouraging its westernmost province to rebel.
Oh my
Right.
god, wait. I thought of the perfect example of this. So what
It's
you're
the
telling
war
me,
on terror.
no, Aaron, this is the little brother. Athens is the little brother. Athens is sitting there antagonizing the bully, and then when the bully comes and starts like kicking sand in its face, it calls its older brother Sparta over, and Sparta comes and kicks their ass.
Well, to be fair, there of like the 4 major battles that are fought over the 2 invasions, Athens single-handedly wins 2 of them.
Battle of Marathon is like a straight up Greek victory because everybody thought they were gonna get decimated.
Yeah,
Well, also,
the
they had a
Athenians
guy-
win. Yeah, the Athenians win Marathon. They win Salamis. I believe it's a joint victory with everybody at Plataea, and the Spartans really only get glory at Thermopylae, which is just them buying time for everyone to get their armies together.
Marathon, a battle where one guy runs 26.2 miles, dies, and then has people for the rest of history just mocking it by running it for fun.
And the best part is
Classic internet joke.
he did that dying to deliver a message of Athens calls for aid and Sparta will not answer. The Spartans said, no, we're not helping you.
Yeah,
Back said, what news from Sparta? They're not coming. What? And then he just keeled over.
To be fair,
Yeah.
he ran like 171 miles in that week.
The Spartans straight up said, like, tried to make the excuse that, oh, we can't fight under this religious festival because they're very superstitious. That is actually something that's true, but they also were smart enough to be like, yeah, no, because they already had a reputation of being superstitious, so they played into it and were just like, oh no, we can't fight under this festival during this full moon. Sorry.
Who would have thought the hyper conservative, overly militaristic people would be religious wackadoos?
Listen, the parallel, like, they don't say, listen, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure as hell fucking rhymes.
Oh no, history definitely repeats itself. History is cyclical.
Yep,
Everything comes around. Everything has been precedented.
Yeah. And, basically as a result of all this, the Athenians are all for retribution. They're here to invade Persia and punish the Persians so that the Persians never come back. And you have this division here between a group of people, the Ionians, that represent Greece's artistic and innovation and, intellectual side, wanting to go to absolute war. And the people that represent Greece's militaristic and traditional religious side saying the war is over. And it's this interesting duality that ends up really shuffling a bunch of people into different camps that they probably wouldn't have ended up in otherwise, namely Thebes and Corinth, ending up with the Spartans on this one.
Go home, guys. War's done.
Because, fun fact, Corinth hates Sparta, but they
But they
end up
hate
hating the Athenians more because Corinth controls the main path between Attica, which is where Athens is, and the Peloponnese, which is where Sparta is. And so they hate both of them. But they end up going pretty pro-Sparta during the rest of this period just because of how much they don't want to fight a Persian war.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And, kind of Athens having emerged as this superpower alongside Sparta within the Greek world, they have a second reason for wanting to continue the war and form the Delian League. And that is Sparta already has the Peloponnesian League. They've had it for 60 years. Isn't it time we had a league of our own?
Hey, that's a movie.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And so they want to counterbalance Sparta's Peloponnesian League. And this is kind of the time where Greece transitions from 1,000 independent city-states that each rule their own little tiny bit of land to warfare being defined by massive cooperative alliances. It's the only way now to field sufficient armies to defend your sovereignty is to team up with the people around you. And that's what they do. They take the precedent they've earned as a leader of Greeks at Salamis, and they go to the island of Delos in the Aegean Sea, and they declare that anyone who wants to continue this war to free the Ionian Greeks from Persia shall meet on this island once a year to discuss business and how we're going to go about doing this. And they get about 330 cities on board with them.
Wow.
The Aegean city-states, the Ionians, find this position massively popular. And, it's a league of equals, unlike the Peloponnesian League, in which everyone kind of has to listen to Sparta or else. Everyone gets one vote, and policy is decided by a majority vote. Athens is democratic. The Athenians who are establishing this league would obviously implement a democratic solution, as opposed to Sparta, which is a dual monarchy.
with the Garcia too.
Yeah, that basically wants authoritarianism.
But
And
just for the Spartans, like weirdly, just only for the Spartans, like they're very egalitarian, but specifically only for them.
yeah, they are weird like that. They are weird like that. It's
It's one way to maintain a homogenous population, though.
yeah. The Spartans
Except
are
the
weird
way they
because-
do that was literally based on slavery.
Yeah,
They had to have so many helots to the point they were outnumbered, like I think 2-1.
They were outnumbered by a hell of a lot more than that.
Oh my
But
god, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing with the Spartans is, if you are a Spartan, then Sparta is basically communist. Everyone is equal. Everyone gets the same share of everything. If you are in Spartan land and you are not a Spartan, you are property, and you exist solely for the benefit and exploitation on behalf of the Spartans.
Yikes.
They are terrible people. They deserve what's coming to them.
There's literally nothing good about them.
Yeah. But right now we're with Athens in the Delian League. And Athens takes this democracy, which they're forming in the league, and they kind of use their leadership position to be the power behind a lot of the decisions. They put together a treasury in the Temple of Apollo on Delos, and there must be no one man can be trusted with this much money. So we will assign 10 men to it. The prerequisite for being assigned as treasurer to the treasury is that you must be Athenian. And they start doing a bunch of little things like this right from the get-go that lets you know that this is in no way going to be abused by the Athenians in about 5 minutes flat.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's the wolf in sheep's clothing where they're basically like, we'll make sure that your money is protected and that no one man has control over all of it. Oh, great. Yeah, that sounds great. And how are you going to do that? Well, we're going to have 10 Athenians in charge of your money. Wait.
Yeah, and that's the trick. The other trick they do where they get really insidious is they invent a new idea for Greeks, which is tribute. The Spartans and the Peloponnesian League and all that, you contribute to the military alliance by bringing your own army to join with the Spartan army. And you've just all agreed that if Sparta calls, you will come. The Greeks say, well, we're building a navy. Navies need ships, they need supplies, they need funding. So all you member states, other 329 cities, don't worry about drafting your population, sending them to die. Athens is a naval power. We will supply the sailors and the commanders. We know what we're doing. You just build us those ships.
Oh my god, they subsidize the cost of their own power expansion.
Yep.
And in about 20 years flat, Athens is going to have the largest navy in the Mediterranean, and it will be exclusively manned by Athenians.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I also believe that was the largest navy in history up until that point.
It may well have been. It was definitely one of the largest out there. I don't know if somewhere in the Pacific someone got bigger, but I think it was probably the largest navy anyone had seen.
It was at least the largest navy in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Which is still incredible, and that's honestly hilarious because it's like someone today going, you know what? Build this warehouse, and I got people that I can staff to run it, and they just made profit off of it.
Yep. And the Athenians were able to justify their mentality of we should be the people running the ships for the league because they had won Salamis, which was a purely naval battle that relied on brilliant and precisely timed maneuvering to defeat a Persian fleet that outnumbered the Athenians something like 3-1. And it was the total loss of the Persian fleet at Salamis that forced Persia to retreat from Greece. So Athens is kind of seen as these undefeatable masters of the sea. And if you're going to war with the largest empire on earth, wouldn't you want the invincible warrior leading your charge?
And also, I could see where it could be attractive to them, where they say, "Look, don't sacrifice your own populations, don't risk your own soldiers. We'll supply that. We'll train them. We'll get them all nice and good to go. Just give us the tools."
Yep. Provide
You
funding.
forgot the part where they also supplied the slaves to row it.
We don't talk about that.
Yep. Slavery is very common in Greece. It is, with the exception of Sparta, it is not necessarily ethnically centered, as the Athenians treated slavery like an economic deal, where basically you took a mortgage out against your lifespan in return for, the money you needed to do something.
Yeah, listen, if banks could, they probably would too,
Yeah.
still to this day.
Oh yeah, it was definitely slavery. It was not a good situation to be in, but it was a purely economic exchange between usually consenting individuals.
Consenting to the point where, hey,
Now,
I need out of this.
yeah. Now, granted, one of those individuals has a debt collector trying to break their knees, but hey, that's about it. That's about as consenting as you can get with the S word going around.
Yeah.
So, improvement on Sparta. Yay. We're still terrible people. Athens deserves everything that is coming to them too.
Yeah.
No one is a good guy here. So they take this and they go to war with Persia. And for 10 years, they do almost nothing. It's mostly just building up the navy. But near the end of the first decade, in about 368, they managed to liberate Thrace, which is this region of northern Greece next to Macedonia that the Persians were able to kind of garrison. And they're able to push the Persians out, and it's this big victory of like, oh my God, the League works. We've freed a Greek territory from these barbarian Persians. We're doing it, guys. We're doing it. And all the coastal cities in Thrace are suddenly part of the Delian League. They may have been asked. It may have just been a bit of gunboat diplomacy.
I
A
mean,
bit both, probably.
when an army shows up at your doorstep, frees you, and then offers you protection, I think you're going to be inclined to want to take it. I mean,
Yeah.
I could see a number of certain modern parallels that one may end up with a conclusion to.
Yeah. Yeah. And this victory gives the Athenians a taste for conquest by liberation. Specifically, a admiral by the name of Simon or Caiman or Simon, or however you want to pronounce Simon with a C. Because he, over the next like year and a half, wins the Battle of Pamphylia and pushes the Persians out of the Ionia region of Anatolia, which is modern Turkey. And this was the ethnically Greek part of the Persian Empire. This was the territory that Athens had been advocating for since before the Persian invasions. After decades of struggle, it's done. They've won. They've freed Ionia from Persia. All the Greeks are free. Hooray, the League's purpose is fulfilled. So naturally, this is going to continue for another 60 years.
It's funny. It's like, this was such an important time in history. And it's like a span of 70 years.
Yeah.
Which, is this the same
Like
time
2,400 years ago.
is this around the same time that Greece had like Odessa and all the other Mediterranean colonies ish?
Yeah. So the Greek colonization wave happened just a century before that. And that was where the Greeks went and colonized Italy and Sicily and Crimea and Ukraine.
Oh,
And
northern Iraq, or not, northern Egypt, or
Yeah.
more or less Libya.
Okay,
Yeah,
so, but
Libya.
it wasn't that long ago in terms of how long it was from this that there still was that ethnic connection and there was still that like
Yeah.
brotherhood.
Oh, yeah. The colonies
100%,
almost
100%.
paid direct tribute to their mother city.
The allegiances some of these colonies owe their fatherlands, their founding cities, is going to play a very crucial role in how Athens absolutely unravels.
Yeah.
Because they don't take into account what the Sicilians are going to be doing.
Always the Sicilians.
And as you know, of all the things you must never do, the second most terrible is to bet against the Sicilian when death is on the line.
You fall.
Yep.
They make good
You
pizza
fool.
though.
Yeah, very good. So, yep.
I mean, they do. Neapolitan pizza's pretty great.
Neapolitan things are very good. So that is I think that's actually from Naples.
Yeah, I was gonna say Neapolitan's Naples.
Which is in Campania on the mainland, which was
That's right.
Although Naples was also a Greek city.
I wish
But
I did
still
get to go to
counts.
Sicily. That would have been nice.
Yeah. But anyway, what do the Greeks do now that they've freed all the Greeks from the Persians?
They attacked the Greeks.
Nope. They're going to free the Egyptians.
Oh,
Because it's no longer enough to take back what they believe was always theirs. They want to systematically dismantle the Persian Empire.
Wait,
Oh,
so is this where we start seeing the Ptolemaic dynasties?
No, that's going to come. The Ptolemaic dynasty gets its authority from Alexander the Great, who comes about 80 years after this league collapses.
Wow, that's still a really small time frame. You're talking
Yeah,
300 years from the time they start their colonies to the time Alexander goes fucking his
it,
way across the continents.
yeah. Basically, the highlight of Greek history is about 550 to 323 BCE, and we're right in the middle of that at like the height of the Greeks expressing their Greekness.
and
Wow.
also Rome is still happening.
Rome, yeah, but Rome is
Rome's not a
Rome,
powerhouse yet. It's
yeah, no,
still fighting
Rome
like the
is a Rome
Sarmatians
is a
and the
subjugated
Samnites
city
and the
at this.
Etruscans.
Yeah, Rome is an Etruscan client state at this point.
I guess I've always gotten them conflated because for whatever reason, I always thought ancient Greece was a little bit further back than 500 BCE, but that also
Yeah,
makes sense because I knew I had the 2500 year
So
mark
that
in my mind.
so this year is we're in the classical Greece. Greece does exist, obviously, but they
yeah,
don't call themselves Greece.
they,
It's Helicians and then Peloponnesians, Ionians,
yeah,
Hellenic.
Thracians, so
yeah,
on and so forth. But it's like
yeah. The
again, it's like it's interpersonal. It's very interpersonal
yeah,
in a
and
way,
like yeah,
but like
like
as a city state.
yeah, no, like Greek history really lasts from as like we understand as like Greek antiquity is about 1100 BC to about was it 34 BC when Cleopatra bites it?
Wow.
Yeah, like you'll like it starts with the basilicas essentially, and like I think probably Bronze Age, I guess Bronze Age.
Yeah, no. Oh yeah, no. There's all the Bronze Age stuff with the Minoans and the Mycenaeans and all that stuff. But after the Bronze Age collapse, you get like this almost linear progression of total
The
societal
Acropolis,
collapse
essentially. You start
to
to see the rise of the Acropolis that replaced the
Greek Empire.
Vesuvius.
Yeah, to to full Greek Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to the Romans, when they started really coming to prominence, it really was only a couple hundred years
When Caesar
difference.
said,
So
I when he was 32 and realized he did not accomplish as much as Alexander the fucking Great, he means he did not succeed quick enough for
he
like
yeah he
he
cries,
was
but
still thinking
he,
about these stories as like it happened
yeah.
yesterday because that's how they're telling these stories.
Yeah,
Wow.
and like the Romans become a powerhouse in the Punic Wars, which is the 200s BCE. So the Romans kick off within a century of Alexander the Great.
Wow.
And
That's a weird
Alexander the Great
comparison to think about.
and Alexander the Great is the dominant force of the century after the Delian League, which is where we are now. And
It's a
they are
weird thing to think about because we only talk about these groups in isolation
yeah,
In isolation and in antiquity, we talk about it like it
and in
was so
theme.
long ago, which in
yeah,
reality, 2,500 years is not all that long in the grand
yeah,
scheme of things.
Oh, not with humanity.
But
yeah.
that's where I'm getting kind of surprised because a lot of these great civilizations, Babylonia, obviously, like you talk about the Abbasids or any of those ancient cultures, you talk about them in such antiquity that you seem to think that Greece was somewhere in the middle of that antiquity and then Rome, but in reality, you're talking 3 generations, 4 generations of people, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 200 years from the fall of the Delian League to Rome is the power of the Western Mediterranean.
I mean,
200 years ago for us is
is
not
literally
even
the start of America. It's the
the
revolution.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
revolution
no,
was 240 years ago.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, think about that.
Yeah,
yeah, no,
that's what I'm saying. Like we
200 years ago, we're painting over the burn marks on the White House is what we're doing.
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that is a small span. And right now, the Delian League is spending 6 years, 460 to 454, starting a rebellion in Egypt, and they almost win. They push out the Persians, But in 454, the Egyptians sign a separate peace treaty, which basically granted them concessions in return for stopping this. And they trap the Delian League fleet in the Nile and annihilate it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And 454 is when Athens turns on the rest of the league. They're going to use the failure of the Egyptian endeavor to seize ultimate authority and basically say, we lost because you all weren't committed. So we're going to take measures to ensure that only committed people, Athenians, are involved in this.
Yep.
And they're gonna do a bunch of stuff. They're gonna move the treasury. They're gonna start embezzling from the treasury. They're going to enforce league membership by genocide.
I just hate how historically there's so many parallels of like, clearly there's an issue, clearly there's embezzlement, so we're gonna have oversight over it to make sure it doesn't happen, to stop fraud, waste, and abuse.
Damn, it's almost as if the people who claim that, deregulation's really great are really just trying to make a quick profit and power grab.
Yep. Now the Greeks do make a power grab, the Athenians here, against the Persians as well. They know they've been at war with Persia for a while. So they invade Cyprus.
Because that's a great thing to do.
Well, that leads. It's funny too. Sorry, I know you're gonna continue here, but modern parallel: Greece and Turkey are currently in the middle of like a Cold War over Cyprus.
Yes, listen,
2,500 years later.
Yeah, basically, the disputed territories of all this are basically Istanbul, the western coast of Turkey, and Cyprus. They have been disputed territories for 2,600 years.
That is insane.
And they will continue to be so, probably till the end of time. But the Greeks take Cyprus. They take it in a year. And this attack is successful enough that Persia signs the Peace of Calais to end the hostilities, to finally say, Persia and Greece shall no longer make war. Artaxerxes, the first of Persia here, agrees that if a city is Greek, Persians will not rule it. And in return, Athens agrees to stop attacking everything with the Persian flag and encouraging any client state of Persia to rebel. And, that kind of works out. The Greeks also clearly have the upper hand at this point because the Delian League also gets the agreement that the Persians can't field ships in the Aegean Sea.
So you basically prevent your top enemy from sailing their ships to your back door.
Yeah, basically.
You basically spawn killing at their docks.
Because Persia controlled the Hellespont, which is that nice little crossing where Istanbul is. And so
is that the Bosphorus Strait?
Yeah, the Bosphorus Strait. They controlled that. And they had this whole excuse to sail into like Greek waters and mess with stuff by just saying, we're sailing from the Bosporus to, our colonies in Anatolia or our, territories in Egypt. And we just happened to stop by your city and notice that it looked like you might be a bit militarized. So we're going to take all your stuff.
Yeah, we stopped by your house on the way over and noticed that you had a lot of cool stuff in your backyard. So we just helped ourselves.
Yeah. And basically,
coincidentally, that's how a lot of that shit goes.
Yeah, basically the Greeks get the Persians to stop that and, make it illegal for the Persians to be in their ocean.
We told you it's illegal to be here. Get out.
Your kind ain't welcome around these parts, Persians.
Oh no.
Get out of my pool, you dang kids. Because it's not a lawn, it's made of water.
Get out of my pool, goddamn Persians.
Oh no.
What?
It's always the Persians. You go to your bathtub in your bathroom and it's just a Persian.
I do want to stay, just in case. We are talking about ancient Persians, not modern day, like,
Oh, no,
Iranians.
not there. These are the ancient Persians. I'm not sure which dynasty we're dealing with here, unfortunately.
It's the Achaemenids, I think.
Is it still the Achaemenians?
I'm
Yeah, no,
pretty
it is
sure.
it is the Achaemenid dynasty, because it's what is it?
It's Cyrus,
It's Cyrus, and
Xerxes.
it's still Xerxes' line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
Artaxerxes.
Xerxes, because he doesn't get overthrown for losing the war in Greece. He should have, nearly does, but he doesn't.
It's a weird thing. Like, Greece was literally not even supposed to be, like, from the Persian perspective, it's very much like, what do you mean we lost? Where the fuck is Greece?
Yeah,
That's kind of how they treated it.
yeah, it was an inhospitable backwater that was insulting the glory of the empire. And so what should have been a weekend excursion to go murder some savages turned into an absolute Vinland level nightmare
Quite
of
literally the, like,
everyone
Rick and
dying.
Morty meme of 20-minute adventure, in and out, real quick.
Yeah. And they come back nearly dead.
They're like, "Well, I had no control of that situation whatsoever." Or, like, it is it was literally like a blindsiding the Persians, like, what?
Yep.
The hill started speaking Greek.
Oh no. The Greeks have
This was their
eyes.
Vietnam, essentially.
Oh no.
Yeah, no. Basically what happens is they walk into Thermopylae, and then someone shouts from the mountain path, "Let's dine in hell." And then everyone just started dying.
They're like, "What the hell?"
Why are the hills speaking Greek?
Yeah.
The
The Delian League undergoes a slow transformation here into the Athenian Empire.
Naturally.
It has to be, it has to be reorganized for a safe and secure future.
Don't. What?
Cleon, no, the
No,
rise of Cleon after, like at the start of the Peloponnesian War is, like, quite literally the dawn of the Athenian Empire.
Yeah.
Basically, it's who was it? Pericles. It's like Pericles, as soon as he dies, it's a Cleon's like, "It's now time for me to ascend and rule my new empire."
Yeah, it gets pretty bad. But first, Athens does some good things for the league. It's that candy to get you into the van.
Right.
Whoa,
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding when Colum is saying it is quite literally Cleon running around bribing, not bribing, but basically whipping up a demagogue and of people and just being like, "Yeah, can you believe it? It is quite literally Cleon starting a culture war in Athens."
Okay, but again, this is where I think there is a certain burden to being historically aware, because again,
it is insane.
History is cyclical. We are seeing that in the modern day, where you start seeing divisions and culture wars and ways to divide the population, especially against some vague enemy.
Yeah. Now,
the Persians are gonna be coming out.
The Persians are crossing the borders.
We need to build the wall on the Bosphorus.
Yeah. Now, right now, Greece is going to be under control of Pericles, who rules who rules Athens as the Archon of Athens, and he's one of the longest reigning archons in Athenian history, because he's in charge for 32 years.
Yeah.
Elected annually 32 times consecutively.
I mean, listen, when we say, like, this is like a statistical anomaly in Athens.
This was their FDR. This was the guy who just could not lose an election.
No, I think of it more
I think this was more like
Richard Daley in Chicago. It's like a municipal mayor who just continuously keeps getting elected over and over again and serves like 10 terms.
This is
Yeah.
kind of more another simile is essentially I'm thinking Cleon more or less had something similar to what the Romans were doing with their dictatorship, except Rome had a formalized form of it. However,
They-
I would not put it past like it being Athenian propaganda. That's a little pro Cleon saying like he was elected every year for 32
He was
years.
such a good politician
Are
that
you
the
kidding
people
me?
loved
And
him.
The
They just kept.
Athenians were throwing away generals for losing one battle.
Yeah, and the
They
thing
just
about
kept
Pericles,
re-electing him. They really
the,
liked him.
the, the, the thing about Pericles is he's actually a very capable military and political leader.
I mean, I'm
Because
just throwing it out there.
Yeah, because you have to be, because if you lose a battle, you're executed.
Are we saying it's
Defeat
not
equals
like?
treason.
Are we gonna say it's not like Putin, who's never lost an election?
It could be,
It
but
could be.
also
We don't have a lot of information. We do know that Cleon was able to openly run and oppose Pericles for the duration of Pericles' reign.
so it could easily be like it could be their FDR in that aspect, but it is also you have to remember a lot of our sources for this era are pro-Athenian in nature.
Yeah, almost everything we have is Athenian documents written by Athenians in a state where you can be exiled for 10 years because you pissed off a censor.
Exactly. So like
And
either there are basically two ways to look at it is either Pericles was in fact like this beloved grandpa of Athens, or I guess both
he,
could still be true.
he
Pericles
was
could
an
have
utter
very been
bastard,
politically
but he was
master.
good at his job.
Yeah,
I guess
it
my
literally could be Pericles was a man kind of person.
I guess my worry and concern is that like they say he was elected, but the elections, while contested, were not a fair
Well,
ordeal.
It could
well,
be.
no, it would be, it could be pretty fair because the Athenians were the only ones allowed to vote on this. And
Athenian men.
the Athenian men, yeah. And so they're all in Athens, and Pericles is doing a good job of protecting the Athenians. Because keep in mind, Athens at this point is officially at war from 480 to 404
This has been a long
consistently.
war.
So this is a military pseudo dictatorship. There is a lot that the people are willing to deal with. What they're looking for in a leader isn't someone who is benevolent, but someone who is efficient.
Stalwart, also very much.
Yeah.
Resilient.
Yeah.
But when the plague hits Athens
Yeah.
in the Peloponnesian War,
Ooh,
it's
that's peaking. That's coming up.
I don't think it's peaking anymore. This is
Right
fucking
now.
old as shit.
Yeah, right now, spoilers. Right now, Athens is going to do some things that makes the league Athenian without letting the league know.
Yeah.
Because you see, there's some benefits to international cooperation. There's increased trade and communication between all these cities. They standardize the weights and measures so everyone's using, one imperial system.
One talent based off an Athenian talent.
Yep. And there's a decline in piracy, and currency is standardized. All other currencies are based their value around the American dollar. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, the Athenian talent.
Little Freudian slip there, bud, huh?
Alluded. We've got FDR and Richard fucking Daley up here. You were doing a presidential impression at one point. Don't blame me for this. I am a hammer. Everything is a nail.
Listen, like I said earlier, history rhymes. It really does.
And
I think rhyme fits better.
They go about installing democracies in all the other cities that sign on to the Delian League. They encourage by use of military force and tax cuts the implementation of a democracy. As in, you pay less money if you become a democracy for the first 5 years.
Yeah,
I'm
like
making up that number there, but like basically they would incentivize a short-term tax cut in your tribute to the league if you were a democracy. And if you were violently against that, your leadership drowned in a pool.
hmm.
Oh,
And
So this is where we start to call it oligarchy after a
yeah,
certain point.
yeah.
this is where this becomes the Athenian Empire. In 467, they're taking advantage of their initial success against Persia, their first tangible successes, to enforce membership by military means. See, the island of Naxos is never fully on board with this Delian League thing, but all the cities around it were. And seeing that in 467, the Persians have lost all the gains they made during the second invasion of Greece, Naxos says, "Congratulations, I did what I set out to do. My part in the league is done. I'm closing my account." Athens invades Naxos.
Hey,
Yep.
they're no longer protected.
Yep. They
Oh
conquer
no, it was pirates.
If you
they
thought,
conquer the island and they declare it no longer an autonomous member state, but an Athenian dependency, which means that it is represented by Athens during the Delian League meetings, and Athenians get to cast its vote.
Yep.
This is going to happen
A
over and
lot.
over again until Athens has the majority of the votes.
oh my god.
The story you're about to tell has happened a lot.
Yep.
And
Again,
has been
there's a
told
lot
before.
of historical parallels here that I don't know how I feel about.
And then from 465 to 462, the city of Thassos is put to siege by Athens because Thassos is a mineral rich site. I believe they have a mining operation. I believe it's a silver mine, silver and tin. And
It's a
they
silver
want
mine, yeah. That
and
shit's good.
they want to keep direct control of their mines. But Athens loves silver, and these people have silver. And so they demand that control of the mine be turned over to Athens. Thassos refuses. Athens invades.
God, it's.
You have a resource we want. You're our ally. Naturally, we should own the means of production and receive the entirety of that export, of that resource as an export. Your
Are we
country
the
doesn't need it.
baddies?
Hans, are we the baddies?
Yep.
That's a real nice Greenland you have there. It's a shame if something were to happen.
You know what they want to do? They want to give them $10,000 for each citizen there to bribe them.
Yep. And
I'm not fucking kidding. It was announced
I
today.
know, it's serious. But a lot of historical parallels where there's an asset that an ally has that certain powerful nations try to use as a negotiation tactic.
Yeah.
And
We'll give you money.
I say negotiation very loosely too.
It's so funny. It's so funny that like the myth of King Minos comes from this area and not one lesson is learned.
Nope. Nope. No one learns a damn thing, and no one stands up to Athens because remember, Athens is the person manning the League military. You might have provided 10 ships to the Athenian fleet, but all those ships are under the control of Athenian sailors.
Hey, I did say that would come back around. Look at it go.
Yeah. Then after this Thassos thing in 461, Pericles is elected, and he will be elected archon for the next 32 years. He's a statesman and a general. He puts together the golden age of Athens, which is known as the Age of Pericles. These 32 years of prosperity, and he is a absolute believer in Athenian military supremacy.
Jeez, why would he? Why,
He puts together this golden age of Athens, which is where the modern depiction of ancient Greece comes from. Marble statues, towering,
which were
grand,
painted, by the way.
elaborate temples, drama, philosophy, poetry, art, all of it put together under the age of Pericles.
You must have read a lot of Hippocrates then.
Nope. No, he did not read Hippocrates, because if he read Hippocrates, he would have learned the line, help, or at least do no harm. He will do
Yeah.
harm.
You think?
Now, could you do harm if it's for the greater good?
You can harm if you're like self-defense.
Yep. Now, also, right after Pericles gets elected, Athens goes to war with Sparta for the first time.
Oh, like a direct war against each other.
Yep.
Yep.
And this is the testing war. This is the first Peloponnesian War. It's going to last from 460 to 446, and everyone is stunned because the Delian League.
This is if the Cold War went hot.
Yeah, but like the Delian League was formed to protect Greeks against foreigners, against Persians. And here it is being used by Athens to fight other Greeks. This is a violation of the charter. This is, this is effectively using NATO to invade a banana republic.
Yeah.
It's not what this organization was set out to do. It is a gross misconduct and misuse of the military power put in Athens' hands, and no one can stop them.
Except the Spartans, which is like, but that's like saying the only ones who can save us are the Russians?
Yeah. I don't know. There's not really a good parallel for this.
No, controversial opinion. The one who's going to save us is the rise of Germany yet again.
Oh my God, no.
The Fourth Reich will save us all. Hopefully this time just less racist.
I think we're in the fourth.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The American Reich.
Because the third one was pretty bad and we don't want to replicate that. But this is their redemption arc.
Yeah. Anyway.
Because the first time it wasn't even their fault.
Anyway, in 454, they use the failure on the Persian front in Egypt to take the treasury from Delos, from the Delian League, and put it in Athens. And they just have this inconclusive fight with Sparta for the next 10 years. And the hostilities end with the 30 Years Treaty in 445. Which just states that both sides are going to go back to pre-war conditions, more or less, and we agree that we will meet in 30 years to decide whether or not we need to resume this conflict.
They said, "Let's pause, take a deep breath for 30 years, come back."
Yep.
Yeah, we'll circle back to this later.
Can we do a follow-up meeting for that meeting?
Yep. Fun fact, the 30 years peace would last 14 years.
Hey.
Well, that's pretty, I mean, that's pretty good.
How does a 30-year peace only last less than half of it?
The Athenians or the Spartans?
Athens breaks the treaty.
I fucking knew it. I knew it.
Athens will break the treaty.
Those bastards.
I know, like, someone's going to be in the comments being like, they're so flip-floppy back with their support and their who they support. It's like, no, it's just we understand that. Like, it's absurd to be, it's absurd to actually.
I'm actually going to jump on a soapbox here and say I don't think you should fully wholeheartedly support any one person or entity with all of your being. You should be able to identify the flaws and the fatal errors within it, and that is very much a targeted attack. Like, you should
Yeah.
not, you should be able to pull and like dissect actions and things that have been done. You shouldn't go, they did nothing wrong, I fully support everything they've done. That is called
What we're doing is
brainwashing.
banter,
Yeah.
essentially. What we're doing is banter that is a lot of it. It's also some of it, can be inside jokes that we've made about, because this is our hobby essentially and our life.
But off of the soapbox, we did mention earlier that Athens' fatal flaw here in the Delian League is going to be its own arrogance, and breaking the 30 years treaty is Athenian arrogance at its finest.
Oh, 100%. Like when we talk about like the way that Greeks, it's always funny because the way the Greeks in this time would describe the Persians would be decadent, and like they also called them extremely feminine. Like they really very much view it. It's like the Chad Wojak meme kind of thing.
Yeah. The Greeks
It's really stupid, but it's also like they said they were extremely decadent, and now look at Athens being like extorting tribute from all of its former allies.
Yeah, no. And
So
speaking of
just
all
so
that,
they could be rich.
speaking of all that tribute, Aaron, we've taken the treasury from Delos. The temple of Apollo is empty. Where are we going to put all this money? There's more of it than Athens has ever seen.
The
Don't worry.
Parthenon.
Oh, that doesn't exist yet. But
Oh no, wait, the
fortunately,
Pantheon.
yeah, no, it's the Parthenon, but it doesn't exist yet. Fortunately,
Don't make me
Pericles
mix
here
those
has a
up.
massive plan to spend all of that money on this sculptor named Phidias, who's going to build a massive redecoration of the entire Acropolis.
So this
Oh
is
my
where we
God.
get like that iconic golden statue of like Athena or whatever.
Yeah, that's one of the things up there in a minute. But we're gonna go through it list by list here, because basically when they take the treasury and have nowhere to put it, they decide to spend most of the treasury building a treasury to put the treasure in.
This is also part of the reason why a lot of ancient Greek like monumental builds tend to be in Athens.
Yep. Chief among these is going to be our star of the show, the Parthenon.
You
Massive, solid marble, about 100 feet by 228.
It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it, like, say, I don't know, the Ottomans or the British.
The British.
Also the Venetians. Let's not
Yeah,
forget,
the Venetians
let's
are
not
the
forget
ones
who
who
was
blew
shooting
the
at the
fucker
Ottomans
up.
when it happened.
But also, who the fuck put that in like all that gunpowder? Why would you put it there?
Because they clearly wouldn't
a
attack
fortified
this
position.
historical thing.
Well, no.
It was a
The
fortified position, actually.
It was the most fortified. The Acropolis exists as the fortress of Athens. The Turks had no respect for the ancient Athenian religion, so they just said, we're going to use it as a military post. Venice said, hey, that's a military post. Blast it. And that's how you destroy these buildings.
And that's given the British enough ammunition for the past 200 years to just continuously deny returning and rectifying the marbles.
Now,
Pretty much.
This building was so massive and so elaborate and took up so much marble that Athens, with the entire Delian League treasury at its back, and actually at peace for the only time in the history of the Delian League, takes 9 years to build it. Not decorate it. This is just constructing this building itself. The carvings are so elaborate that it takes 15 years for the sculptors of Athens to finish them.
15.
Yep, they are carved from 447 to 432. All white marble, elaborate friezes and sculptures. This is the famed Parthenon and Elgin marbles that are currently held hostage in a certain museum on a certain island.
You know, not looking at you in particular, British Museum.
Yep. And to top it all off, they build one of only two Elephantine statues in Greece. This, Aaron's the massive gold and ivory statue you were mentioning. This is the statue of Athena. She is giant. She is the patron goddess of Athens. They named their city after their god. And the only other statue even like this is the statue of Zeus at Olympia. And Olympia was the sacred temple city for Mount Olympus that housed the Olympic Games and was like the direct pathway between the Greeks and heaven.
Yeah, Mount Olympus was the home to all of the Greek pantheon of gods.
So that's
right.
That's how much the Athenians are thinking of themselves right now, that they are building a statue to their god on the same level as the statue to the gate of heaven.
This is like some Tower of Babylon.
I mean, if we weren't so important, we wouldn't have all this money and we wouldn't be able to build such a beautiful, intricate statue, right, guys?
Actually, that sounds more like Calvinism.
Yep. But Aaron, there's a problem. There's a problem Pericles has with this. We've got the largest temple Athens has ever had, pure marble, every centimeter intricately designed. Inside, a statue unlike any in the rest of Greece. But the walk up to it is just so unadorned with monuments to Athens' greatness. If only, oh wait, we're building a new gate of solid marble. They build the Propylaea. Solid white marble again, massive, full of statues and rooms, and just controls access and viewage of the Parthenon so that you have to march up to the top to get a close look at it. And you walk through a massive marble gate to do so. And, there's all this extra real estate up there too. Let's build a temple to Athena Nike, Athena, the goddess of victory. And put it right next to this Parthenon so that we can guarantee that we will always win our wars. And, just keep adding building project after building project to this.
I mean,
pretty nonstop.
They set a really wild precedent, and this isn't unique to Greece, so to speak, or to Athens. Monumental architecture has always been something of a way to show off both power, wealth, influence. This is just a continuation in this. But the issue here is this sets a new precedent that still is continued to this day. Much of Washington, D.C. and many governmental buildings still emulate this opulent, ornate design and intricate carvings.
Yep. This is the style of governance. This is the architecture of power. Basically, from the time the Athenians do this, so from like 432 BC to I think 1939 is about the time range in which this is what you build as the sign of government, of statehood. And the Athenians also get to spend a lot of this money on less concrete things. They fund massive annual arts festivals, whole plays, dozens and dozens of plays every year with the Delian League money. This is the era of the great playwrights. This is Aristophanes and Euripides and Sophocles.
This
is where Hippocrates comes in. Got it.
Hippocrates predates this. He's dead. He's been dead for a century.
What a hypocrite, then.
I don't know why you keep making this joke.
Because it's awful, and that's the best part.
It doesn't work. It does not work. This is also the time of philosophy. This is where Greek philosophy becomes what we know it as. It becomes famous. This is the world that Plato lived in. This is the world that Socrates lived in. In fact,
Pythagoras?
Pythagoras?
Yeah.
Pythagoras is in Egypt, and I think he's also dead.
He lived
Also,
570 to 490.
yeah, so he's dead before this happens.
Dang.
He's dead. He's also from Samos, so he doesn't count for the Athenians.
Okay, fair. He's just one of the like key figures I always think about in terms of ancient Greece. Because of his damn mathematics.
Yeah, he's the one everyone has to learn about. Now, the League cities start trying to break away from Athens because you can read the writing on the wall at this point. They're extracting tribute, they're using military force against you, and they're building monuments to their own greatness. This is no longer a partnership.
No, this is a hostile government takeover.
And the rebellions correspond with the perceived military might of Athens. When Athens loses a battle, a bunch of cities will start rising up against them. In 446, during the First Peloponnesian War, Athens loses the Battle of Coronea. This results in the city of Euboea to revolt. And the Athenians really
They call him back.
desperately try to hold on to their empire. And that's why like a defeat in battle is considered treason. Because if you lose a battle, the cities we rule will rebel. And you've encouraged revolt against Athens. That's their logic. It gets so extreme for the Athenians that in 432, there's a bit of a rebellion in Poitidaea, during which the Athenians go a little bit overboard and break the 30 Years' Peace, prompting the Second Peloponnesian War.
God damn.
Yeah.
And as this war goes on, a general named Aristides raises the annual tribute from 460 talents per city to 1,500. So that Athens can make up all that deficit for all that money they just spent on their own greatness.
This is like if the US charged all the allied countries in NATO for World War II and their involvement.
Yeah.
Which we kind of did with the Lend-Lease Act, but that's different.
Yeah.
That is different.
More or less, this would be the equivalent of us going into France and going province by province and saying, here's your bill for all those days that you were under American protection.
Yeah.
You owe
during
me.
the war. Yeah.
Time to pay your protection money.
Yep. Yeah. You owe us $1,500 for every day.
Like if the US actually did that, there's no way.
We did. I don't think we did.
France
is our friend. They would not be our friend if we charged them for the privilege.
I mean, technically, Lend-Lease we did charge, but the U.S. wrote off a majority of that debt. Great Britain made their final payment in 2006.
Yeah, I'm so glad we still made the British pay.
Oh yeah, definitely. But we didn't make them pay for being under our protection. We just made them pay at a later date for buying our equipment.
Yes.
Which is different from the outright extortion we're seeing here.
Exactly.
But that's going to bring us to the fun part of this podcast, Aaron. The elephant and the whale. You see, the Second Peloponnesian War is such a goddamn slog and stalemate that it gets nicknamed by the Greeks the War of the Elephant and the Whale. Sparta is invincible on the ground. They are the elephant. Athens cannot defeat them in a land battle.
Right.
Athens is the whale. They're indomitable at sea. And Sparta cannot contest the coast.
Naturally.
And so an elephant and a whale are just circling each other. The elephant refuses to get into the water because it'll die. And the whale
it's Groudon versus Kyogre from Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's literally Sparta shouting at it. Yeah. It's just Sparta for like 30 years. It's just Sparta shouting from the mountains, "Get on land and fight me, coward!"
Yeah.
And then Athens like, no, fight us out here.
Yeah. Basically. And eventually the Rayquaza of Macedonia will come down and settle everything. But
Yeah, pretty much.
no.
And
Holy
then
shit.
Persia comes back and is just kind of like, hey guys, how's it going? And Macedon's like, instant
Holy
death.
holy shit. The Peloponnesian War and the unification of Greece it's the Hoenn region is just an allegory for all of it.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Or it's just this theme happens a lot in human history.
Yep.
Yeah,
And so this massive back and forth of just the Spartans running into Attica every year and burning the Athenian fields, and the Athenians sailing down to the Peloponnese and sacking the Persian coast, the Spartan coastal cities, just keeps happening for years and years.
it's gonna cause some generational resentment.
Yep. And all the smaller members, all the tributary states, are the ones that suffer because Athens and Sparta's in the mountains. Athens can't get to it.
Right.
And Athens builds the long wall to the sea. Sparta can't get to Athens.
Essentially, they're just because the biggest change in this, isn't it, is like the winter siege, right? Because there would be a little bit of reprieve because the Spartans would have to go home and tend to their crops and
Yep.
the 80th slave rebellion.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, so it was this, we war in the
Maybe,
summer,
maybe,
we sit
maybe
around
the
all
Spartans would have been better off if they didn't have an entire society propped up by slavery.
yeah. Yeah. They were more terrified of a rebellion than a Confederate general.
It was insane.
Yeah.
They
And
ruled with fear because they're like, if they're scared enough, they won't real
yeah.
just kill us.
Yeah. And yep. And this war, Athens is totally to blame for it. It all begins because Athens invades in Peloponnesian affairs. There is a city called Corfu, which is a member of the Peloponnesian League under one of Sparta's almost equals of Corinth. And basically, Athens decides to help Corfu because controlling Corfu would be a great gain for the Athenian Empire. I mean, Delian League. And so Sparta says, oh, look, Athens just tried to take one of our cities. That breaks the treaty. Guess we're
Yeah.
at war. And
It very much was like they were all looking for a fight.
yeah, they were all looking for it because surprisingly, as soon as this happens, the Delian League city of Plataea is immediately sacked.
This was some tit for tat shit.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the Athenians going into this war, they're going into this in high spirits. They've been ruled by Pericles for 30 years. He's proven himself a strategic mind. He's a capable leader. He's charismatic. He's cunning. And he dies 2 years into the conflict.
Yeah.
He kicks it in during the plague that breaks out in 429 because the Spartans have surrounded Athens, and this is where I believe Thucydides gives us the first detailed record of a plague outbreak in human history.
The
And
first one?
it is terrifying. So the plagues had broken out before and there were records of them, but what Thucydides does is he goes day by day through the streets recording the afflictions and the suffering of the people, how the dead pile up, how people throw waste from their windows onto their own front door because they don't have the energy to move any further, how the boils break out, how entire sections of the city are quarantined because the smell of the dead is so sickening. This plague is terrible.
Was it a bubonic with the boils, or was it a different
It,
kind?
No one knows what the plague was, but it's one of the theories is that it was bubonic,
Interesting.
that it was an outbreak of Black Death. But
Terrifying, but interesting.
no one knows for sure. There's been studies trying to identify the plague, find plague victims, and identify it. But it's the first truly detailed account beyond just records of a military encampment going, an ailment broke out and people started vomiting and got boils and died. It's just, it's detailed. It's an in-depth account of the suffering of this war.
Yeah.
Yeah, the afterwards, like after all the dust settles for everything, Athens very much did the pity card at any opportunity.
Yep. And there's just the man here to help them do that. His name is Cleon, and he hates Pericles. Cleon does his little demagogue takeover of Athens following the whole death of Pericles and all that, and he's going to rule for 7 years as Archon, which is basically a king at this point. And Cleon, for all the things that Cleon is bad at, for all the ways in which he is a tyrant, he's good at fighting. And he almost ends this war in 425. He almost takes Sparta. But Sparta is saved by Brasidas, who is going to be the only competent military leader Sparta fields for this war.
Oh no.
Brasidas pushes back. He stops Cleon. Sparta starts regaining ground after nearly losing the entire thing in 425. But unfortunately for both sides, Cleon and Brasidas are killed in battle at the Battle of Amphipolis in 422. And everything that comes after is going to be why a popularity contest should not result in military leadership.
A popularity contest is no form of government.
Yep. See, a man named Nicias becomes Archon in 421, and he negotiates the Peace of Nicias the same year, and this should end the war. There's only 2 problems. No one's on board with it. The only people who agree to this peace are Nicias himself and the Spartan general signing for the Spartans.
Nobody else was on board. Nobody else cared.
Nobody else cared. It does give everyone an excuse to temporarily stop the fighting, but it's immediately undermined by both Spartan and Athenian military leadership.
Of course.
And the war, all it does is really shift the war from open battles to assassinations, coups, and bribes.
So more subvertive warfare versus overt.
Yeah. They go from being the freaking Marines to being the CIA.
Yikes.
And this will last for 6 years until Athens decides that it can no longer tolerate Athenian allegiance to Sparta. Sicilian allegiance to Sparta. Athens doesn't get aligned with Sparta for a while now. And in 415, the Athenians decide, we're going to break the Peace of Nicias and openly invade Sparta's allies because the Sicilian cities are larger and wealthier than the Greek ones at this time. And they are pouring economic support into Sparta to keep it going in this fight.
So it almost became a proxy war where Athens went after the puppet master.
Yeah, Sparta is getting funding from Persia, from Sicily, from everyone who is just fed up with Athens. Because Athens spent the 50 years before this war just being a warmonger.
God.
Also, just kind of Alcibiades kind of being around. This is like part of this is also a lot of it's Alcibiades.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Alcibiades, Athenian general, opposed to the Peace of Nicaea. He's going to lead this expedition. He pushes for it. He wants war. Alcibiades, unfortunately, is a frat bro.
This, I am not kidding when we say, like, this is like if you put a college frat boy in charge of the U.S. military. Actually, no, in charge of NATO.
This man, on the eve of leaving for this expedition with the two other generals, Nicias and I believe Lamachus, he goes around to the city of Athens and chops the dicks off of all the statues.
The Hermes statues, specifically.
All the Herms, which are these statues of Hermes that are supposed to be omens and warding against misfortune.
We don't question it, guy. Like for all of you, don't. It's a long
it's naked
story.
statues of Hermes, and this guy decides that the best thing to do is to go around and collect all the stone dicks in the city of Athens.
Why would you de-willify a lot of those statues, though?
And it's probably a bad thing he really did Hermes specifically, you know, considering he's the god of travelers and you're about to go embark on an expedition.
Yeah. This is a stupid move. He's just a drunken party boy going on a bender during this.
And having sex with anything and anyone.
Yeah. And this results in the Sicilian expedition being pretty much doomed. Because as soon as it sets out, Lamachus dies en route. Alcibiades is recalled for the statue issue on charges of treason.
Really? He broke the peace with gods, specifically the one who.
Oh my God!
Now Alcibiades has some god tier charisma going on because when the boat comes to tow him back, he talks to them and says, "You know what? I'm sure I'm a loyal Athenian general. I all know you. We've all known each other. We don't have to arrest me. We don't have to put me on your boat. We don't have to tie my boat to yours so that it's towed behind it. I will sail back willingly with you and stand trial as an Athenian general because, by God, I'm more Athenian than Athena herself." And they agree to let him sail back with them on his own. And he just starts slowly falling behind the fleet sent to collect him. Till eventually he deems himself far enough away that he makes a sharp right turn and flees to Persia.
This man is quite literally that shows off the power of the bard really well as a class trait.
Hey, don't worry, guys. I'll catch up with you. I'll be right there. I'll stand trial. Hey.
Wait, right here.
Yeah, it's just the persuasion check. My rowers are tired. They've been rowing back and forth all day, and they're starting to wonder what the hell we're doing.
We keep whipping them, but they won't move.
I will step right into this blue police box and arrest myself.
Exactly.
Yep. And that leaves Nicias alone to command all this. Now, Nicias gets sick upon arriving in Sicily, and he lays siege to Syracuse. But he doesn't have the men to do it. He doesn't have the constitution anymore. He doesn't have the assistance of the other two generals that he needed. And even though Demosthenes shows up with a reinforcement fleet, the Syracusans rally out and they annihilate the entire expedition.
Is this like the Battle of Syracuse that's widely celebrated, or is that a different one?
No. That's the one when the Romans get involved.
Yeah, that's a Byzantine battle, which shows some pretty freaking genius from a man named Belisarius.
Oh, that we're talking about that. That's much later.
That's much later. Yeah. That's
still the same area.
This is the Athenian disgrace, and Athens doesn't find out for months.
That's right. We have the luxury of having like those updates instantly. These people were waiting months, like thinking, "Wow, I wonder when they'll be back."
They find out because a malnourished man who is dressed like a barbarian, completely disheveled, walks into a Athenian barbershop and in a perfect Athenian accent says, "Please trim my beard." And as the barber's trimming and asking him, doing, the hairdresser thing of, "So how was your week?" He recounts in detail the total annihilation of the Athenian expedition to Syracuse. So naturally, the Athenians go to their leadership and tell of this. And they put the man on trial for not dying with the rest of his men.
Oh my god.
Of course, because
The
why?
The survivor is accused of desertion.
No need
This
for
is- that is
survivor's
straight-
guilt. They'll handle it for you.
No, that's straight out of fucking Helldivers too. What do you mean you didn't die on the battlefield? Get back out there.
What kind of
Yep.
soldier are you that
Yep.
ran away?
Now, the defeat is in
Oh.
413. The Athenians find out in 411, and they do what any state would do now that it's been 2 years without, their leadership's been gone for 4 years and is dead.
Civil
Right.
War, Civil War, Civil
Yep,
War.
Civil War. They kill each other. And there is 3 civil wars in 1 year. War
Wow.
number 1. A group of oligarchs overthrow the Athenian democracy and install themselves as the sole authorities of Greece.
Oh wow. Typical.
Civil War number 2. These oligarchs are immediately killed by a group calling themselves the 5,000, which is a single ethnic group of Athenians who say
there's like the hill people, the city people, and rural people.
the rural people. There's
Oh, and like the seaside, like what is
the
it?
the coast people, the sailors. And basically, this one group says Athenian democracy has been too broad. We 5,000 are the only true Athenians, and we shall rule Athens as such. The Athenian navy then shows up and says, "You revoked our citizenship," and proceeds to sack the city.
I'm sorry, you revoked our citizenship, the ones who are holding the weaponry.
Yeah, no one's thought any of this through. And they reinstall Athenian democracy as it was before the civil wars.
Why did they have to sack the city then?
Sometimes you just
Because
gotta express that anger.
Because the 5,000 held the city, the Athenian fleet docked in Salamis, said they did what? Grabbed all their weapons and just started marching towards the Acropolis.
Aaron,
I mean, I
you're
guess they
telling
did
me
burn it.
you come back
They
home.
probably just looted their homes, like that specific team.
No, they looted everything. It was mob mentality. You know for a fact the Navy showed up and the soldiers are like, "I'm sorry, you did what?" You do realize that we are the ones with the weaponry, and they're like, yeah, I think so." So like, okay, we'll be back.
Imagine coming home from Vietnam or Korea or Afghanistan, and right at the gate is some sniveling little
Wall Street
fella you've
fuck.
never seen before who asks for your ID and cuts it up saying, "Thank you for your service. You're no longer a citizen. Get back out there."
No, I
would
think
rip
that
man
would have
limb
happened
from
if they
limb.
could have. Like if the U.S. government could have, I think they would have.
You would rip that man limb from limb if you could.
I mean, there's a
And
lot of
people
immigrants that
could.
fight in our military that are currently facing deportation.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of them are from Puerto Rico. Like
Yep.
that's just a U.S. territory.
But once again, this is how you start a civil war. By telling the soldiers, while they're still armed, that they are no longer a part of your empire.
Yikes.
That's just the easiest way to create. Oh god, that is how you create a pirate fleet. That's exactly what the British did.
Yep. Privateers are a bad idea.
Are you telling me this is now the age of the great pirate era?
No, because the fleet takes over Athens and starts running things.
Damn.
They reinstall the democracy. They say, "We're citizens. We're always citizens. Anyone who tries to take that is traitor." Everyone agree? Good. I'm going to go kill these 5,000 people. And Athenian democracy continues for about another 7 years.
Well,
In 405, we get the Battle of Aegospotami, in which the Athenian navy is destroyed.
wow.
Yep.
That just did not last very long, I guess.
Yeah, no, they get a good 6 years, but Athens is slowly losing this war. The invasion of Syracuse was a desperate attempt to cut off Sparta's funding, and when that failed, it was only a matter of time. The Battle of Aegospotami sees a Spartan admiral of all things by the name of Lysander
Oh, that's
defeat
right.
the navy. Sparta wins a naval battle.
Wow.
That's how wrong things have gone.
Using a Persian fleet.
Yep. He gets the Persians loaning their fleet because they hate Athens more than Sparta.
This really sounds like a modern equivalent to like the Ukraine-Russia conflict, where Athens is Russia and has been the aggressor and has been seeing their power kind of fumble, and then Sparta is being propped up by all these other nations that just hate them.
Yep.
And they're given the fleets and weaponry and funding to fight this battle.
Yeah, basically, it's pretty much chaos. It's a proxy war from the Persian and Sicilian perspectives, and they all love it because the Persians have been getting bodied by Athens for the last 50 years,
And they'd like to have a navy.
Yeah, and the Sicilians recognize that it's only a matter of time before Athens is no longer content with the Eastern Mediterranean.
Gee, so they were practicing a policy of containment even back then.
Yep.
It's a pretty effective one, I guess.
Yep. The Syracusans were good.
The modern parallels are insanity.
Just like it keeps rhyming and repeating.
Yep. And within a year of Aegospotami, Lysander enters Athens. And with the 404 fall of Athens comes the end of the league.
Oh no, 404 Athens not found.
Yep.
Democracy not found.
Phrasing. Yep. Sparta takes over Athens. They formally dissolve the league. They dissolve the Athenian democracy. They install what's called the 30 tyrants, which are the 30 most pro-Spartan people they can find in Athens.
That did not last very long.
Yeah, these people prove grossly incompetent and widely unpopular.
So what you're saying is a meritocracy based on allegiances doesn't tend to work out very well. Huh.
Especially allegiances to a foreign or Russian power. Let's go. Let's push the envelope, guys. We're at the end of the episode. No one's watching.
We've made this... This is, I think, arguably the most political, and that's purely based on the parallels. But yes, it is very...
made up parallels, yeah.
There's too many parallels. Make them stop.
But that is history in a nutshell.
It's pretty easy to do.
Yep. And here's the best part. Sparta ends the war, the undisputed hegemon of Greece, with 2/3 of its population in the ground.
And then dies in fighting from its slaves.
Yep. Sparta is so heavily depleted that it struggles against new challenges. The Thebans are able to oppose them.
The sacred band of Thebes.
Thebes, by the way, was
Thebes.
last relevant to Greece in the year 600.
Wow.
Yeah, to put this into perspective, by the time like the Roman Empire has it's at its peak, Sparta is a tourist destination.
Well, yeah, the Romans idolized
And
Greece.
you know what they did? They just found random Greeks to pretend to be Spartans the same way we do to Romans.
Yeah, they had people running around in traditional Greek attire who were, like professional bodybuilders, and they would just go around and Ren Fair act out what everyone thought a Spartan looked like.
I'm not kidding. It is the funniest bit of information. It's like, we really don't change.
No, yeah. I've said this right along. Humans do not change throughout history. We wear different hats and different clothes, but we act the goddamn same.
And the best part is, Sparta is so unpopular that within 20 years of doing all this, former Delian League members will ally with Athens to attack Sparta.
Again, wow.
Yep. Boeotia and Thebes will form their own coalition and attack Sparta. Corinth and the Helots will all attack Sparta. The Macedonians will come down through Thrace and attack Sparta.
You know that famous laconic if moment, like a bunch of like the weirdos who like are like make Sparta their historical personality or whatever. Yeah, when they said if to Philip, he came in and burned it to the ground.
Yep. Yep. Because
He didn't do it right away, but he came back.
Yeah, the Spartans really, they don't have the numbers to sustain themselves anymore, and they're deeply
They were
unpopular.
literally living off their reputation.
Yeah, the Athenian Empire is dead. The Delian League is dead. But they, Sparta and Athens have destroyed each other, fighting for control of Greece. And there is now going to be a 40-year power vacuum that only Macedonia is going to fill. The Macedons under King Philip and later his son Alexander. They're going to come and they're going to rule Greece. All because they were sitting on the sideline the whole time.
Yeah, they capitulated to the Persians early, and they're just like,
yeah,
okay. Yeah. And then when the Persians got kicked out, they're like, okay.
Yeah.
I guess we can try it now. It's our turn.
Yeah. They're just sort of looking around like, what a bunch of idiots. All these foreigners keep showing up and killing each other.
You want to know how intense the stereotypes were, like from an Athenian perspective? This is what they thought about the Macedonians. They thought they were barbaric because if you ask somebody from Athens if Macedonians were Greek, they'll say no.
No.
Because Greek wasn't a thing, but they're like, no, they're not like us because they don't water down their wine.
Yeah.
Like petty shit like that.
Yeah.
Their accent's weird. They don't water down their wine, so they get stupidly drunk easily.
Yeah, and
they ride horses.
Yeah. This is all this insanity because to be Greek back then it wasn't your ethnicity, your language, your religion, your writing system, all of which were the same. It was literally you had to be an exact copy of whatever city was in power, or you weren't Greek enough to be Greek. It was the most petty, exclusive club.
And citizenship, even within those polities, changed all the fucking time just to be spiteful. Like there were times where in Athens history where to be considered Athenian, you needed one Athenian father. Like you just need one Athenian parent, and it had to be the father. Or there were some cases where it was only specifically the father, but it could be your mother too.
They get so ethnocentric at one point that all of your grandparents must be pure-blooded Athenian.
Yeah, so it's just ethnocentrism in all of ancient Greece.
But yeah, that's probably all we're going to be here forever trying to talk about.
On that bombshell,
we've been everywhere, all over the map. We've gone hundreds of years in every direction.
And we have made this a hyper-political.
The Delian League is that impactful. It is a microcosm of everything we're seeing today. And it is crazy what it did for all successive generations.
God, we literally learned fucking nothing.
History, if gone unlearned, is destined to repeat itself. And yet, ironically, the people who repeat history the most are the ones that claim to know it, but know very little. And yeah,
because they like their fucking patriotic version of things because it makes them feel good. And if history makes you feel good, you're learning. Well, you're not learning history. You're just learning little fucks. History is gonna make you be like, Hans, are we the baddies?
Aaron, my favorite part about this, especially with the podcast that we do here, the TikToks that I publish, and our other short form content, is a lot of people tell us and say, thank you for not being political about it. But in reality, all of history is political. History is politicized. And if you are upset about that, it usually means you are on the wrong end of history.
I just want to say with that fact aside, if this is how political the Delian League is taking us to, I do not know what we are going to be doing next time when we do Australian mining, which is a wonderful history of a massive industry on an entire continent that is intricately tied to indigenous rights.
Well, the best part is we're going to have that one to go up, and then the one immediately after is the French Revolution.
Okay, that's not political. That's installing democracy, America, by any means necessary.
The thing is, we didn't plan this. Like, I mean, we planned this, but we didn't realize what we were lighting up.
For those of you playing at home, we schedule our seasons out almost 6 to 8 months in advance. So this was prior to any election, prior to any change administration. These were set up. I actually think we could probably pull up when it happened.
We wrote.
I'm pretty sure we did it in
put
October.
this together in October
Yeah.
because our seasons end in November and start in December. So we open with like our Christmas specials.
So yes, I hope you guys love the topics, and yeah, let us know if you've made it this far on our longest.
Give us your opinion in the comments
on our longest episode ever. And yeah, like Aaron said, give us all of your hot political takes. We'd love to see arguing and fighting.
Keep it sane.
The comments.
Keep it sane. Please keep it sane.
Be polite, but be polite, but do tell us what you think. Who here is an allegory for who?
Pick your favorite dictator down below.
Actually, know what? Put in the comments also your favorite Greek city-state that you want to visit. My personally is going to be Crete. I want to visit the entire island of Crete, and specifically at Knossos.
I want to go to the
Knossos. You get Knossos. You don't get to take the whole island. You can have Knossos.
Oh, come on. I might as well get the whole
Aaron can
island.
get the whole island. I want the island of Lesbos. A callback to our very first season. What, episode like 4?
Was Sappho?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff on Sappho of Lesbos.
I wasn't even.
That was pre-Aaron.
It was our first attempt at doing a biopic.
And that was a long, long time ago. We did Sappho of Lesbos on June 27th, 2022. So 3 years ago from the time we started the season 1, episode 15.
Yeah.
But yeah, Colum, to wrap us all out, what is your choice?
I'd say I'd like to go back to Delphi. House of the Oracle, beautiful monuments, and I like that city. It's a wonderful view.
All right, and on that note, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to tune in next time for our episode on Australian mining, and we will see you in the next episode.